Hey, everybody, hey, we're coming on right now, right now.
Hello, hello, hello. How
Greetings
is
to you.
everybody?
Oh, why is my sound? I can't control my sound here.
After this, I won't
Yeah,
sing, okay?
you're not gonna sing?
I'll leave that to you.
Ah, let's do it this way. Can't control my sound. Hey, how was you doing?
Did you get it?
I got it.
Okay.
All right, one way or the other. One
All
way or the other, skin a
right.
cat. Hello, everybody. How are
Hello,
you?
hello.
I gotta make sure this is right though, because we may have people calling in, so I don't know
Hmm.
what's going on with that. Buzz. Okay. Anyway, hello everybody. Oh, I know why.
Why? What
I
happened?
know why.
Okay.
Let me reach.
Can you reach it?
I can almost reach it. I'm almost there.
Do you need me to
I'm
reach it?
almost there. I
Almost
almost
there?
got it. I got it.
Okay.
I got
Got
it.
it.
All right, now we got that straight. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So many technical things happening here. Yeah, that's what I want to hear. So now okay. I don't know what you guys were hearing before, but you should hear it now.
Okay.
And we are good. Hello, everybody. How are
Hello,
you
hello,
doing?
hello.
Glad to have everybody with us once again for what is this again? Road to Destiny. I got so many. We got so many shows.
We have so many things going on. We have to keep it
Sunday. Is
straight.
this Sunday yet? Sunday service? I don't know. But
Not yet, babe.
okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Hello,
Okay.
everybody. How's everybody doing? Hope you're doing well tonight. It is another Saturday night. And as always, there are lots of things that have been going on
Yes.
throughout the week. It's just like an ongoing basis here. I mean, I've been really thinking about that even spiritually,
Hmm.
how, things are happening right now in such rapid fashion. It's like,
Yes.
what is going on? I mean, the clock seems to not be the clock right now.
Hmm.
It seems like there's a whole nother thing that's going on in terms of the pace of things. And let me
Hmm.
get up here by the mic while I'm talking.
Yeah.
But the pace of things, the types of activities that are going on, it just seems like
Hmm.
this year has been at a whole nother scale. It's like we've lived probably 5 years in 1 year.
Exactly. It's on rapid,
Right, rapid path.
rapid speed.
It's like one thing after another. It's hard to even keep up with what's
Yes.
really going on. But every week, I mean, we've been doing this since like March,
Since March.
and like every week there is something new going on that we need to
Yes.
talk about
Yes.
because and people need to talk about
Right.
because it's hectic. Your head is trying to keep up with things. You're trying to cope with one thing, the next
Next
thing
thing comes
shows
up.
up.
Exactly. It's like we don't even really have enough time to talk about each topic
Right.
as long as
Mhm.
we would really like, or as long as we would need
Right.
to, really get
Mhm.
people to talk and give us their opinions and their thoughts on the topics.
I mean, somebody was even asking us that. They're like, "Can you guys do the show longer?
A little
Can
bit
you keep
longer.
can you keep people on longer? Because it's
Yes.
like not even finished yet."
Yeah.
And that's just trying to talk about one topic at a time.
Hmm.
But when you think about it, there's just
There's
so
so
many
many
things.
topics and so many things,
Right.
so many issues, and
Hmm.
so many events happening
Hmm.
at one
The
time.
list gets longer every
It
week.
gets longer and longer.
Because I'm not. Wait, I wasn't finished with that yet.
Exactly.
What about this situation over here?
Exactly. And
Right.
it's like you can't stay too long on one particular topic
Right.
or subject or event
Yeah.
because moving right along
Mhm.
to the next thing.
We'd be like here like all night.
Yes.
Right? We could do
Yes.
like a marathon run. By New Year's Eve, we'll be able to do a marathon.
Yeah, right.
The countdown to the end of the year will be like all these subjects talked about for like an
Yeah.
hour each. We'll
Mhm.
just keep going.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We're not
No,
gonna
we
do that.
won't be doing that.
That'll be this year's New Year's Eve service. Since we can't do it, we can't come together. We'll do that for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
No, maybe not. I don't
Nah.
know. We'll think about it. We got a little time to think about it. But so hello to everybody. Hello to those that are coming online. Welcome. I see some people waving at us right
Yes.
now. From the church, Sister
Uh-huh.
Regina, Sister Heather, Sister Amlin. Hello,
Yes,
you
yes,
guys.
yes. Who's that?
coming on with you
Mr.
too?
James Cooper. Hello, how are
Hey,
you?
hey.
And my good friend in New York City, Eddie Hudson.
Hey,
Thank you
hey.
for the nice gift.
Mhm.
Yes, and Randolph Jones, my big little brother, because I'm the oldest, but he's the biggest.
Right.
But that's my brother. Okay.
That's Pastor James Cooper, isn't it?
Yes, that's Pastor James Cooper.
All right.
And
Very good.
my cousin Gwen, my sweet cousin Gwen.
Mhm.
How are you, darling? And Donna and Johnny from Syracuse.
I see a wave on there.
Oh,
too.
yes,
Wave.
that's my cousin. Yes, okay. And my friend Antoinette Griffin, hello. Glad to have you on.
So the nice thing about this is people can really tune on literally from all over.
Yes.
Right. I mean, literally all over the world.
All over the world, we're getting people.
You know, what's funny was when I was home this week again in Jamestown from my dad, and we were finding out how somebody from the church there is showing him our stuff.
Exactly.
Online. And so
yes,
he doesn't do it himself, but now he's online because somebody's bringing it to him.
Yes, someone's bringing him the information.
Right. I heard you guys had such and such going on.
Yes,
so he's up with it before we even get to it.
Exactly. Dad knows who we're having on, and he's watching the program.
He's
watching us. Huh?
Pastor Cooper's on with me too. So
he's okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, he's both of our friends.
Yeah, okay, all right.
But I did meet him through you.
Yeah, right. And Daphne Bryant, long time friend. Daphne, now you know this has to remind you. I mean, you see the mic and stuff here. This has to remind you the days back at WITR. You know, she was with me very early stage. See this plaque behind me? That plaque behind me right there. If I point this way over my shoulder, that is, in fact, both of those are from WITR, from the radio station from when I was a baby. And I think one says 15 years and one says 20 years. But man, that makes me sound old. And that was what, 15, 20 years ago. Okay. That's how scary that is, right? Okay. But that's the radio station that we had. And if you can almost see right there, me standing there over the piano in my WITR black and white T-shirt. Right there. Daphne, I'm talking to you.
Next time I have to bring it closer.
Well, messed up on the wall. But
okay.
that's from years ago. And somebody made me that collage. I think Regina, you made that for me. If I remember correctly, I think Regina made that collage.
Okay. Your friend Regina there? Okay.
I think it was that one or is this one?
Okay.
She made one of them. That's Sister Regina from the church.
Oh, okay.
She made one of those. There's another one over here. I think she made that one.
Okay, when you had a radio station years ago?
Back when we were on WITR here in Rochester.
Okay.
A little 1,000 watt station, but we had lots and lots of listeners because we were the only ones that played contemporary Christian music back in those days.
I heard about you.
It was us. Oh, Lord.
Yes, I did. Everyone talks about it. They
Lord.
They let me know the things that you did.
It was that and Little John. Y'all remember Little John if you're from Rochester. Little John was on WDKX and I was on WITR, and then can't even say his name. Wardell was with me. We were the original DJs there. This is back. Oh, now we're getting old, right? 1981 that started back there. And we did that. I did that for 20 years, I believe, and finally retired out of it. And Wardell kept it going and some others kept it going. Okay. And now we have evolved to Pastor James Cooper.
Oh, yes.
We have passed on the torch.
Our Spirit?
Right, with Our Spirit Radio.
Is that
digital
what it is?
online radio now.
Okay.
And all those that are supporting and working with him, we're very proud of you guys. Keeping and taking it to a whole nother level.
Yes.
One of the reasons I actually decided to stop doing it was because I knew and felt it needed to go to another level.
Okay.
And there was the question, and of course, back then, this is before internet stuff, but we were trying to figure out what to do, how we could take it to the next level. We wanted to take it to television or syndicate and things like that. And really just wasn't the time to do it. So congratulations to them and all the support to them for taking it to its next level. It's excellent thing. So hello to everybody out there. Listen, we have, this week is we pulled back and it's just us and you guys.
Yes.
Right. But there is a lot to talk about and really hoping that you will get involved in the conversation. So please call us, area code 951-799-9032. Please give us a call. We want you to get involved in this conversation because there is so much that is going on right now.
Yes.
And once again, it is absolutely wild. And so there's lots of topics. And if you have something that you would like to say or be involved in, please you can send us a comment online, or you can call in and really join in the conversation because I know there's lots of opinions out there.
Yeah.
About lots of things.
Yes.
We're not trying to be the correct opinion. We're trying to help stimulate the conversation.
Exactly.
And we really would love to hear from all sides of it. So you don't have to be on one side of a conversation. That's part of the issue today, is that there are so many people that things are so polarized that people feel if you're not on one side or the other, you're either good or you're bad.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what that's what they want right now.
That's the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's the atmosphere
been developed.
Exactly.
So you're either for us or against us. If you're not on my side, you're on the other side and you're wrong and you're bad. And that didn't just start with Donald Trump. Donald Trump has capitalized on it. But trust me, it did not start with him. He just capitalized on it, and it's become more extreme. But the reality is there are multiple perspectives of different things.
Yes.
And we can't beat each other up if we're not necessarily on the same, exactly aligned the same in everything. We've done that in the church for years.
Yes.
If we're not exactly aligned, we beat each other up and put each other's churches down. We've done that in communities. We've done that in so many different ways, and we can't afford to do that now.
Exactly. If we need to find a common ground,
absolutely,
in order to try and solve some of these issues and some of these problems.
Right.
We need to come together. We can't be totally to the left and totally to the right. Let's get together and see what can we do to make this better.
And that
because
means,
it's very bad right now.
Yeah, and that means there are times when, look, I don't necessarily agree with your spin on this, but help me understand. I think that's one of the most important things. Help me understand what you're saying about this.
Right.
Why you think this is valuable and important.
Right. Why do you
and
think
let
it's
me
right?
explain to you what I'm thinking and where I'm coming from. And maybe we'll actually find out that we've got some common ground.
Yes.
It's just that we don't fully understand.
Exactly.
Because one of the things that's a real problem today, and again, it goes to the time we're living in, is that we get all of our information from very short little excerpts of things, right? The news clips, a 2-minute story, which are most oftentimes biased.
Yes.
And so we're getting these little blips and clips of things that we're trying to make and make our opinions from.
Yes.
And it's not good. It's a really bad thing.
Yes.
So we want to have a conversation about some of this stuff tonight. We want to invite you to call in. We are ready to connect up with you, hear what you've got to say. You can share it with all those that are listening and watching and be a part of the conversation. I wish we had invited Dr. Georgiana Land
to speak. Yes, my godmother.
We should have. By the way, we've got some great guests that are lining up now, literally lining up for the future. I've heard from a couple people just today about coming on. And so we've been talking to some people. We are looking for lots of very interesting perspectives in the future. But I wish we had contacted Dr. Land
earlier
for 2 reasons.
Yes.
Number one, because she has my mother's name, Georgiana.
Yes.
And this was my mother's birthday.
Yes.
Right. So Georgiana Stewart, Dr. Georgiana Stewart, Dr.
And my
godmother,
godmother, and your mother would my mother-in-law. So we've got a lot of common things going on here. Yes.
But we should have had her on because also she would have had a lot to say on these subjects.
Issues, yes.
These are issues that are right down. You guys don't know her. She's not from Rochester, but she is an extraordinary woman with an extreme amount of experience, both locally, nationally, working for and representing the United States internationally. Excellent woman and woman of God. So we got to line that up for the future.
Yes,
but
we do.
Today you're stuck with us, right? It's us and you. So we're you and us. We need you to get involved. So the first thing we wanted to talk about is, there's always hot off the press news. And so earlier today, in case you haven't heard it yet, the Rochester mayor announced that there's a new interim chief of police.
Yes.
A female chief of police.
A woman.
Woman is female. Female is woman.
We don't want, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later.
Talk about online?
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yes.
We have a new
woman.
Okay, we got you. So we have a woman chief of police. I don't know a lot about her. If somebody has some things to share, you can reach out to us. I didn't even catch her name. I actually heard it, but I didn't catch it. I heard a little bit of the announcement, but I thought it was interesting that she made the announcement on a Saturday, first of all, right? Typically when you do things like that, it's because you're trying to avoid the mainstream press.
Yeah, right away.
Right.
Yes.
So if anytime things come out, public announcements on a weekend, it's usually to avoid mainstream press. And we've had so much press attention, even nationally.
Yes.
It may be that she wanted to try and keep a little bit out of that.
Yeah.
I watch some of the feeds because I typically watch those things, end up watching them online. And again, just like with this show, people were putting in comments, and I tell you, I have to say, there are so many haters out there. I mean, it's rough.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just be honest about it. It used to be a lot of white people that really had a lot of negative things constantly to say about her. And now with what's gone on, it's not only the white people, but it's a lot of black people too.
Yes.
I mean, she's got a lot of people, and it doesn't even get to the realities of the job she's doing. One of the comments was, who dressed her today? I'm like, okay, you know, that had, I mean,
what does
really,
that have to do with anything?
It just
We got more
just
serious issues to worry about.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, if you have an issue with something she has done or hasn't done, that's one thing. But, you know, to just hate everything about a person, that kind of attitude and atmosphere is what is surrounding us today everywhere. I don't know them. I don't know anything about them, but I just hate them. Well, why?
Why?
Well, because
what did
they're
they
the
do?
enemy, right?
Yeah.
Well, how did they become the enemy? You know, it's. Oh, thank you, Latasha. Cynthia Harriet Sullivan is her name. Thank you. She's the new interim chief of police woman.
Yes.
Chief of police. Okay.
Yes.
So you'll talk about that later.
Yes, we will.
But you know, I don't know a lot about her. From what I heard, she had actually been. I think she was a former police officer who had retired and was doing other things. Wasn't completely retired.
Okay.
Working in other areas of the departments, and now has been asked to come back and take over the lead. I did not see enough of it to see if she came to the forefront and you know, had something to say. So I don't know exactly. We don't know the whole story, but there's certainly significance to the fact that she chose a woman to take this position at this point in time. And so we'll have to see what that's going to mean. Clearly, there's a feeling, a sense that there is a need for something different, for some change to transpire in the leadership of the police department. And it's going to be interesting to see what direction this takes. So as always, you know, again, I want to say to people, if you have some thoughts about this, if you have an opinion about whether this is a good thing or bad thing, whether this could be beneficial, is this the right direction, the wrong direction? There are certain people, and I'm reaching out to them as well. There are certain people right now that feel, regardless, that the mayor needs to resign. Absolutely. That's just where their bottom line is. And so what I'd be interested in talking about is why, exactly what.
And why? What are your reasons?
And what is the benefit? I'll tell you this, from my understanding, the feeling is that she was a definite part of the cover-up of the story surrounding Daniel Prude.
Is this what the public thinks?
I believe that that's what they're saying. Again, here's a perfect example of, you hear things and you know what the mayor's on. Why? We need to talk about it. People need to understand where that position's come from, and then you can decide whether you align with it or not, whether it's valid or not. But I believe the real concept right now is there's a lot of frustration, and people feel like her and City Hall were a part of the cover-up, that it wasn't just the police department. And I've also heard people suggesting that the problems with the police department are ultimately her problems under her watch.
Are there any facts? Are there examples? Are they just going on? Are they just guessing or assuming these things?
I think a lot will come out.
Is there something they can think? Okay.
Because there's a lot that's still in record. There's still a lot in documentation, and they're investigating that. Now, I don't know exactly. They've asked for an external investigation by the FBI. So all records are going to be open to that. They're not biased to this area. In fact, the Attorney General in the state is also engaged in an investigation. So you have people from outside coming to look in. And what they should be able to do is follow the trail and paperwork of who knew what, who reported what to who, at what point in time. And they'll find out, they may never find out 100%, but they'll be looking to find out who knew what and who responded how. I think what's clear right now was that there was an intent to, I'll just put it in these words, cover up what had happened, to dilute what had happened, to delay that information getting out. I think from what we've seen thus far, what has been released publicly, that much is clear. Okay. The question is who ultimately is responsible and who was involved. And so we've heard certain names thus far, and I think over time, we're going to get a fuller story, and a lot of things will come out. And a lot has come out, but more will come out that really connects. And then you can make a decision. Right. But it's hard to make a decision off of a 2-minute statement that this person said, or one sentence. Exactly. That's or just having a group of people. Yes. You have to bring, and that's why this is important, because we need an opportunity and a forum to hear the fuller story behind things. Before you make some decision or draw some type of conclusion. Ultimate conclusions, right? Yes. And so there are some people that we're talking to right now about coming to talk about some of these issues that will have a little bit more direct connection to them. There's also people we're talking about the concept of things happening in the police department and policing, and this concept of defunding the police. Myra Brown was here last week,
right?
And I thought she had some good things to say about that, in terms of helping us simple people, right, to understand what does that mean. When we talk about defunding the police, how has that helped the situation? What are we intending to do as a result of that? And but there's a whole lot more that has to be dug out in that, in my personal opinion, at least that I've heard.
I think the term defunding the police, I think that kind of confuses people. Because
it scares people.
And it scares them, and they're not quite sure what the term defunding the police means.
Right.
What are they going to do? You know, what's the plan?
Now, Pastor Myra Brown was here last week, and I thought she did a good job of describing some of the things that would happen in terms of transitioning that cash flow to other areas to help with things that were going to happen in the specific communities that are in need and that are having these problems.
Right. So when they say defunding the police, are they saying take away some of the funding from the police department and take some of the money to go allocate some of that money to go towards the community?
I've heard it described a couple different ways, and this is one of the reasons I really like to hear from the people that represent it, because I want to make sure there's a full story. And if there's not a full story, you have a problem to begin with, because there has to be a clear proposal on what is to be done.
Right.
And so the concept is to take some of the funding that's currently going to the police and fighting violent crime and all these kind of things, and take a portion of that money and funnel it directly into the community, so that it can help benefit the community. In some cases, so there can be some active self-policing that takes place.
Okay.
In other cases, doing things to help try and reduce crime, because people develop people jobs and things like that. And typically where people have prosperity, there's less crime, especially violent crime.
Yes.
And so part of the concept is to take some of that money and move it into those kind of things. I agree with you. I think that a different term versus defunding police, that's where marketing people come in handy, because you want to have something that's not going to sound like you're destroying your police department. So the response from others have been, no, we need that. We need your police department. And as much as going on,
we do. Yes.
You can't, they need it. And the police department themselves are saying, how are we possibly going to handle and address all these issues that are going on right now if we can't fund it? Because if I can't fund it, then people aren't going to work for free. They're not going to live for free. Right. So, you have to be able to really, that becomes an issue where people have to sit down at a table, right? You can't yell about it over here and they kind of over here, like, especially if they're the ones in power and you're just going to yell at them to say, look, you got to do this. There has to be an opportunity to come to the table.
Yes.
And this is what I've said several times, I thought was the great skill of Dr. Martin Luther King, is that he was able to take the energy and the channeled frustrations of people, utilize that to get a big enough picture and a big enough platform to bring people to the table. What he did was he ended up going either to the White House or to other officials and saying, look, there's this disturbance. You don't want this. We need to figure out how to get out of this. Let's come sit down and let's talk about specifically what we need to do and what needs to be remedied. And this is what we want to see happen. And it wasn't like a back off of it. It was, look, this is what we need to see happen. And there was a clear path to what it was going to take. And so I think that's just, again, from my opinion, we got others to talk to about some of these things. I think that's part of what's missing. There's definitely a passion. There's definitely a need for change, but there has to be specifics in terms of exactly what needs to be done and getting the right people to come to the table. I mean, really what needs to happen right now are the people that are involved with Free Rochester and Black Lives Matter. I don't know if they're doing it or not, but they need to be sitting down with the mayor and with the council, city council. They need to have joint sessions of discussion to really talk out the issues of what needs to happen to move forward. What they're doing right now is they're suggesting, look, we need all you guys to leave and you can't, there's no negotiation from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, we'll find out. Maybe they do need to leave. We'll find out.
We'll find out.
You know, and then, but somewhere there has to come to a point where we're sitting down and we're working through a plan that ultimately is going to tie back to the police department, et cetera, so forth, and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Now in Minneapolis,
mm-hmm.
they actually, what's the word? Not defund. They actually basically took down the whole police department. Right. And they said, we're going to take the whole thing down. We're going to start over.
Start fresh.
And
yes.
so we're going to recreate
mm-hmm.
the concept of our police department. I don't know how far they went with that to really do it, but that was what the city agreed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so now watching to see how they do that and what comes up. Does it come up the same as it was? Does it come out different? What really changes? That will be an interesting model to watch.
Yes, that would be very interesting to see the outcome,
mm-hmm.
to see what they what plan they implement.
So again, want to remind you, because y'all ain't talking to me yet, y'all ain't even sending comments, right? But comment, call us, something, be involved in the conversation. Area code 951-799-9032 is the call-in number here. You can call us, and if you want to have some thoughts on any of these things, we want to get you involved in the dialogue as well. So there are lots of things that are, I mean, there's no shortage of things. That just to start to what's happening here in Rochester. But, you know, right now, the other thing that happened today is a nomination of a new Supreme Court justice.
Yes.
Right? Hot off the plate. That was just a couple,
off the press.
You know, hot off the plate. Thank you. Hot off the press. That was just a couple of moments ago that President Trump, now with all the things that have gone on, has officially made a nomination of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've heard a little bit about her. What we do know is that she is a conservative judge, right? She has only been in the federal system for 3 years, which is relatively new. She's relatively young. I believe she's 48 years old.
Yes, 48.
Right?
Yeah.
But yet she is a woman that is of conservative values. And the key thing is that it changes if, assuming that she gets passed through the Senate, mm-hmm. and we know that's pretty much jury rigged at this point, so that's happening, right? But assuming it comes through the Senate, it will change the nature of the court in terms of the balance of conservatives and liberals on the court,
right?
In a very heavy way. Right now, it's considered to be 5-4, at least before Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away.
Yes.
It was 5-4 out of 9 people
mm-hmm.
on the court. And so it was fairly even. However, a lot of the conservative members of the court have been more willing to work and go across lines with liberals than they ever expected, some of which have been already put in by Trump. Mm-hmm. Everybody realizes this will be Donald Trump's third putting somebody into the Supreme Court. This is third nomination. This will be the third out of 9. 3 out of 9 that he will have placed on the Supreme Court in 4 years. That is amazing.
Yes, it is.
To have that kind of a turnover. And so she would go on the court very young, more than likely to be there 20 to 30 years.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And instead of it being a moderate 5-4, I don't know exactly how conservative she is, but it appears that she has very strong conservative values in certain ways.
Yeah, I would think so. If Trump is going to appoint her.
Well, that's the funny thing, because he appointed 2 others, and they turned out to be not as absolutely conservative as he thought. They have voted in line with certain things mm-hmm. in the past few years. Mm-hmm. That was a little bit surprising that they would align themselves with, including mm-hmm. Judge Kennedy, who he didn't put in, but Judge mm-hmm. Kennedy is over the court now, and he is a conservative judge. Mm-hmm. But he's been working to negotiate between them, those on the court, to come up with more or less compromises. Right?
That's a good thing.
Which is not a bad thing, honestly.
Exactly.
But it's a little bit startling to conservatives.
Right.
So now it will be 6 conservatives to 3. It weighs it even further in that direction, which means that the likelihood is that the court is going to be much more on the conservative side, not just for the next year, not just for the next 4 years, but these are lifetime positions.
Yes.
And so this could be, I don't know, I haven't looked at the court lately to see, the condition of anybody else in the court, but this could theoretically go on for years and years, that the court now has been push to a more conservative position. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm going to leave it to everybody else to figure out and decide. Depends on what your opinions and priorities are.
Yes, what your thoughts are.
There's certainly is going to be a waiting in the court that could last for an extended period of time. And so very, very serious.
Very serious, yes.
So, I'm curious about what people think about that, how you feel about that. It's going to impact. And what happens is people will go back and raise issues that have already been decided by the court, but because the court is changed in terms of it's who's involved in it, they will bring back issues of things like Roe versus Wade. What they do is they look for situations that pop up, and then they take those all the way to the Supreme Court so that they get an issue back into the court that may have been decided on before. So issues like LGBTQT, issues like abortion, all these kind of controversial issues that are very, very much divided between conservative and liberal views will reissue themselves back through the court to see if the court will change its mind, change its direction, change its opinion, which could have an impact again across the entire country and filter all down through the states, et cetera, so forth and so on. So it's a very, very important thing that's happening right now. This, by the way, is one of the key elements of having power in government between the president and the Senate.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Because this is a decision that's made between the president and the Senate. It has nothing to do with the House. House has no control over it whatsoever. But judges are one of the most long-term impacts that any president and Senate will have. And it's not just to the Supreme Court, but it's all the jurisdictional courts that get filled in the same fashion. And so they've already filled, I think it's hundreds over the past 4 years of judicial positions, maybe not hundreds, at least 100, I would think, over the past 4 years. That has a huge impact in the shifting of how law gets determined in the country.
Yes.
And so who is going to be president, who's going to be in the Senate, very, very impactful. Right now, the Senate is kind of up for debate as to where that will end up after this election cycle. The presidency obviously is up for debate. Any of these things can shift in any direction. So a lot of key things that are happening here as we lead into this election. Speaking of which, first debates this week.
Yes.
How do you think
This
that's
is going to
go?
be this is going to be interesting.
Everybody got the popcorn ready.
We will not miss that. It is going to be interesting.
There's something every week,
entertaining,
right?
It is going to be. I can't wait.
So it's going to be interesting to see how the two different perspectives, styles come across. Because it's not even just the content. It's, Donald Trump likes to talk about people.
Oh,
right? He debates by talking about you.
Yes.
And so
demeans. He likes to demean people.
Nicknames,
name calling, kind of the whole.
That's the strength of his debate.
Yes.
But I will say this: anybody who's been in that office for 4 years has a much stronger handle on actually subject matter than they did before. Now, Donald Trump 4 years ago knew a lot of stuff about certain things and really not much about other things. So he had to play the dance with Hillary Clinton, who had been in this for years. Now, this year, it's going to be him, who has 4 years of experience. And then it's going to be, Joe Biden, which has 40-something years.
Yes.
So Joe, without trying hard, is very much aware of the issues.
Of the issues, yes. And he will be very well versed.
Right. And so it's going to be really interesting to see where they go, how they approach these things, and what's really going to come out of this. I mean, typically in these debates, we don't find out much more than we already knew, right? Because we know both of these guys pretty well. And, oh, wow. See, I'm getting all kind of comments here. Hello.
Okay.
I missed it. I wasn't on my watch party. I got to catch up now. Yeah, James Cooper was on here.
Okay.
www.rspirit.online. I missed it. Sorry about that. We were talking about all that earlier. Daphne said, let's disagree without fighting. Oh, yeah, I agree with you. But, so many things that are, I got to watch the watch parties as well as watching the game.
Yes, okay.
But anyway, get back to what we're talking about.
Yes.
First debate this week. All these different things that you usually don't find out a whole lot more than we already know about at this point, but how they present what they're trying to do is catch each other, right? And then they can use it against them.
Right.
To really find out, I mean, we kind of know at this point what Donald Trump is about, what he's trying to do. He hasn't really changed. If you give him any credit for anything, he's been fairly consistent in the things that he wants to do.
Yes.
Whether you like those things or not is another question, but we know that. When you are the going against the incumbent, you have kind of this flexibility to say anything because, hey, I'm not in office. I'll promise you the world.
Yeah.
When I get in, then I'll deal with it, right? So what Joe Biden is really going to sign up that he's committed to versus not. And, he has an interesting opportunity right now because all he really has to do is suggest that he's going to do everything opposite of what
Donald Trump wants to do. He could make him angry. And when he gets angry, he just says anything. Right. I mean.
But it'll be interesting because, he's just going to come say, he wants no mask. I want mask.
I want mask.
He doesn't want this. I want that. He's against this. I'm for it.
The oppositional.
It's just going to be.
Take the oppositional side.
Because like more than anything, I mean, sometimes you try and find something in common about these guys, but oh no, he wants to take away all of your pre-existing. No, I want to do that. It's going to be one thing after the other, just opposite ends of the park here, and true despise of each other and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So I don't know if it's going to help people to make much of a choice or not, but we'll see. Now, here's the real question.
Okay.
If Donald Trump loses.
Oh, no.
If Donald Trump loses, do you think he's going to accept the loss?
He said he isn't. He said he is not going to accept it. He is going to find every loophole. He's going to do everything he can. If he loses, he's going to do everything he can to sway the vote his way.
He has basically already said
that
it. The only way that he can lose is if they cheat.
If they cheat. Right. So that leads
like
me
he would never
wait a minute, but that leads me to believe what has he done?
He would never he would never stack
behind the scene to force his winning.
He would never do that. He would never stack the deck.
He stacked it. I wonder.
Of course, putting somebody in the Supreme Court as a conservative judge, so he has a 6-3, so he can take it to the courts. That wouldn't have anything to do with that at all. Yeah. But I'd be really curious to find out what kind of questions he asked her when he met with her.
Yeah.
But we'll leave that alone for a moment.
We won't know. But
so anyway, at this point, the question is, how is this going to? What's going to happen here, right? And was the first president to put up a fight. He's going to be kicking and screaming, and dragging the whole. And the way you do this,
I've never seen any or heard of anything like this.
So the closest we've ever came to this, and it wasn't really them; it was the process. Was Bush and Gore. Which was, I don't know how many years ago now, maybe 8 years ago, or no, it must have been like 12 years ago, Bush and Gore. Those of you that remember that, when the election was extremely close.
Yes.
And remember all the Chads in Florida? The Chads.
The tickets, the ballots.
The Chad. We don't believe it. Hanging Chads, right? That were happening in Florida. It was that was the election that was probably one of the closest and argued and debated. Yeah. And so they went, and it wasn't Gore, and it wasn't Bush. It was the process that they went through, per se. And, they had to go through this process, which was legal. And it starts with recounts. Right. The each party, if something is relatively close, can within X%, they can demand a recount. So it starts with I demand a recount in this state, I demand a recount, and they have to go back through. And by the way, before you even get to the recounts this year, there's going to be so many. First of all, we're going to have to wait because a lot of the votes that are coming in, I saw
my friends,
I see what's going on.
Their comments, Eddie Hudson.
I don't know. We can put
I'm trying to keep it together.
It's a testing out your professionalism here.
Yes,
he's smiling a lot, right? But the first thing that's going to have to happen is we got to wait, because the first thing is because of all the mail-in votes. This is unprecedented.
Yes.
Now, there have always been. Everybody understands this. There's always been mail-in votes. There's been mail-in votes for a century. This is not new. It's always been less depended on and used.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always been a relatively low percent. There's always been mail-in votes that got counted after election day.
Yes.
And usually if the gap is big enough, they don't matter per se anyway in the final who's going to win, lose. The final count, exact accuracy, but who's winning or losing, it doesn't matter. So that's why they can always they project when they say somebody's a winner or loser on election day, they're projecting it.
Right.
But all the votes are not counted.
Right.
The problem this year is that there is almost a magnitude difference expected in the number of votes that are going to come in by mail. Magnitude, at least 10 times as many. And the systems are not ready to handle that. And most of those will get counted after election day. Some places in some states, they have provisions to start counting them in advance. But in most cases, they take place after election day. So if there's a large number of those, it's going to, and the voting is tight in certain states, it's going to make it difficult for them to really project on that day. And so the first thing we have to wait for is for certain states to go through all that process of counting to confirm where they are. Then the second thing that naturally will happen is a demand for recounts.
Yes.
If there are certain places where states where it's really tight, like Florida is typically a very tight state.
Yes.
And there's and you go through this process and it's very close, they will demand recounts. Either one can do it, right? The president or Joe Biden. And then you have to go through that process, which only takes a certain amount of time. It's supposed to take, but it can take a week or two more to do a recount in given states.
Right.
Then once you get through that, if it's still close, then they can go to the judge and say, look, we think something was wrong about this, something's faulty. And so we insist that it be recounted again.
Recounted, yes.
Right? Or something be dug in again.
Yes.
Or they may have to go through and say, okay, we got to subtract out these because these are hanging chads and we don't trust those.
Yes.
So they have to go back through it again. So that's the process. And that process can go all the way up to the Supreme Court where they say, we think this needs to happen. We think this is wrong. We think this is unacceptable. And that's the process. It's a legal process that will transpire for likely weeks and perhaps months after the election. So it may be, depending on how tight it is, that there is no declared president for a month. In the case of Gore and Bush, it was, I think, 37 days.
It was. I remember watching that very closely, all night sometimes.
Right. It was quite a thing.
It was quite an ordeal.
So it could go on easily for a month, probably two at the most. It may be as late as the end of the year before we have a final declared winner. Now, see, this election is 1st of November. So all November, all December, it's very possible that it could be the end of December before the final. Now, there has to be a transition in power. I think it's January 20th, 21st, 25th,
somewhere in there,
right?
Yes.
More than likely, this won't go on that long. And so once there is a final declaration, then that's what's going to be enforced. So I'm thinking that even if the numbers don't look bad, unless they're just blatantly obvious, Trump's going to fight this thing all the way.
He's going to fight it.
Loses. Now, he could win. Now, what he could. He could still win. I'm not saying he's not going to because I don't trust any of them right at this point. In terms of polls and all that stuff.
Yes.
Because obviously they blew it last time. They've learned this time now. We got to pay much more attention to state polls. But everybody does not say exactly what it is that they're truly thinking in terms of what they're voting. And some people, their representation is not always the best. And so there are a lot of people that are not getting counted in these polls that can be a surge. And that's what happened last time. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'll just have to see what's going to happen. But I would not, last time people got really confident with the polls and that Clinton was ahead and there's no way she's going to lose, and it all just blew back in their face.
Yeah.
We don't know. There are a lot of people that support Trump that don't necessarily publicize that they support Trump.
Yes.
And for a lot of reasons.
And a lot of reasons. Yes, I've come across that.
And as a result of that, it's hard to say that he won't win. But
he's already planted the seed. He's playing a mind game. He's already planted the seed and the thought into people's heads. According to him, he's already won. I mean, according to him.
And you know what?
According to him, he cannot lose.
If he hadn't lost to Clinton, he would have probably done some of the same stuff. I think he'll do it more intently now than he would have back then, because I think honestly it would not have been a surprise to him back then if he lost. Right now, I think he's adamant that he's going to do everything he can to stay in office.
Everything he can, yes.
And so that's going to be a process that we'll all be playing throughout the winter, and seeing where we end up. And it's going to be extremely exhausting on the country. Now,
it is.
I'll say this, our election process is probably the most extensive of any country I know. In most countries in Europe, etc., even in Africa, the process is much more streamlined. It's maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months. Our process is like a year and a half. Easily.
This is true.
And it's gotten even longer, people starting even earlier, but it's well past a year. People are starting to announce almost a year and a half in advance. And it's a wearing process. It wears and it distracts the whole country. And so we're going to be exhausted with this by the time this is all over, by December or January, and not to mention all the other things that are going on around us, et cetera, so forth, that we got to deal with. So we'll see what happens there. But again, y'all ain't calling me, and you're barely sending us notes, so I'm not happy with you right now. But feel free to comment, give us a call. We got a few more minutes left in the show, a couple more things we want to talk about, but the number here is 951-799-9032. We really want to hear from you. But speaking of exhausting, back to school.
Yes.
Right. So,
and remote learning.
You want to tell us a little bit about your experience thus far?
Wow. Yes. Well, everyone is staff, superintendents, principals.
You have to explain what.
Yes,
you are
the process. Yes, and yes, I've been involved in education for a number of years on a few different platforms, different levels, different grade levels. I've worked with Syracuse University. I've worked with Syracuse City School District. I have worked in New York City, and never have I seen anything like this.
What's going on now? Right?
Yeah, what's going on right now. Everyone is trying to, superintendents, principals, staff, support staff, we're all getting together and we're trying to make remote learning work. Right. We are being innovative and finding different ways, because this is the beginning of it for public schools.
What do you mean by that?
Well, colleges, they have been, doing some remote learning for a number of years. So they were, pretty much ready for this. It is the elementary, high school, middle schools where I think they're having the most challenging time. I won't say the most difficulty. I'll say the most challenging time, because it's the beginning. And so we have to be innovative. We have to come together and make remote learning work. The parents, we have to bring the parents along, because not all of the kids are coming back to school. Some of the parents have opted to keep their children at home and let them learn remotely, virtual, online.
So that's a tough choice, right?
Yes,
because the choice is either I send my kids to school and I worry about them getting COVID. Me getting COVID.
Yes.
Or I keep them home and I have to figure out a way to make sure that they continue their education, even though I may not really be available or really skilled or trained or in the mindset to teach my kids or support my kids at home.
Yes. Well, then even some parents aren't able to stay home. Some parents need to go to work, and, so then it becomes, do I send my child to school, or how do I keep them home? So they're caught in between, they're afraid to send them because they're afraid of COVID.
Right.
Some people are fortunate enough, like people that work on different shifts, like nurses. Some of their jobs have been accommodating. I have some family members that are nurses, doctors, or what have you. And their jobs have accommodated them. They'll work the third shift, and so that they can be home with their children. But not everyone has that privilege. Everyone can't do that. Then you also come up against the issue where some parents are not tech savvy. you know, and
So
some
they can't really help,
they're not able to help
or they
as
didn't know
much
the
as they would
subject
like,
matter,
or the
you know?
yeah, they're not really up to par with the subject matter. And then you have some parents that, you know, are not, to say it nicely, they're not doing what they need to do, even though they are home,
Right.
you know, to bring their children up to
Right.
speed with the virtual learning.
But even just the concept of trying to keep your child focused and to stay in front of a screen all day.
Yeah, well, you know what, that is an issue, especially with some of the special needs children, you know,
Very,
that
very
are already
specialized.
you know, hyper, you
Right.
know, and already have problems focusing, you know, attention deficit disorder or what have you. They already have issues sitting in the classroom, you know, learning. It's been a challenge. So it's even more of a challenge to get them to, some of them, to sit at home in front of a computer,
right,
and actually learn. You know, I spoke with a couple of parents, and that has been an issue for them.
Yeah. So Emlyn said, I probably shouldn't say names on some of the stuff, right? So she's heard that teachers are seeing some disturbing things during the Zoom
yes.
teaching.
Oh my goodness.
Names.
Oh yeah. Let's not do that.
Person A.
Yes, I have heard some of that, and also, you know, the educators, you know, we have to make home visits sometimes,
right?
And some of the things that you see and smell, you know,
smell what?
you
Wait,
what?
What? Wait a minute. Hold time out now.
No, I'm not making a joke. You know, I'm not, because it is a very serious matter when you're dealing with, you know, children,
right? And
some of the things that go on at home. You wonder why we're having students that are unable to focus.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
It's you know, because there's things that are going home that are not conducive to learning.
Right. And having an impact on the children, and so yes, they go to the school to try and be in a learning environment. So it's not just the content; it's the environment.
It's the environment.
And so now you have to be in a home
yes,
where the environment can be all over the place.
Exactly,
right?
Lots of dysfunction, and you know,
and so kids that really didn't have what we consider to be attention dysfunction are in such a dysfunctional place.
Yes.
That, I mean, I can imagine myself, you know, I have to study every week for sermons and things like that. And if I had to do that, like out in the middle of whatever, I can imagine how distracting it would be.
Yes.
You know, when I went to school and, you know, I would do homework at home here. And when I was in college, we used to go when I used to have my basement, we called it the dungeon.
Yeah.
Because I
go
had
down
to go
there
down
and not
there,
come up.
Right. To study and to concentrate. So I couldn't be around everybody. But here's these kids now, they're at home, and we may or may not necessarily have their own separate place for study or private place. You set up, I guess one thing is really a good recommendation to people is to try and set up an environment.
Well, this is what we have discussed with the parents, you know, to set up an environment that is conducive to learning.
Right.
You know, so.
Because a lot of times they may just be going like to the bedroom or to an open room in the house, but you try and say, okay, we're going to set up this is an environment for learning.
Exactly. Well, you know what? You have to set up a schedule, just like you're going to school, like you're getting up and going to school.
Right.
Okay. At 8:00, you're online. So you need to be up by 7:00, get your breakfast, get yourself together, because you need to be in front of the screen.
Right.
And you know what? And some of the parents are doing a very good job. Some of them are doing a very good job with, you know, promoting education online for their children.
Right.
Yeah, they some of them are very cooperative.
So, but it does add a whole new layer of challenges that have to be dealt with both by kids and the families and the adults. So here's the one question for you. I mean, what do you think the future of this is? Do you think this is going to work? Do you think this is something that will be around long term? I mean, we may be pushed in this environment for a minimum of this school year complete through the end of the summer, maybe longer, I don't know. But do you think that this kind of teaching is something at this student level that may continue on?
I think, personally, it is something that will continue. I can't see school systems, school districts cities and states putting this kind of energy into this type of investment into teaching teachers, educators, how to teach virtually and then pull it back. There's a lot of effort. There's a lot of time going into this where I really don't see it being pulled back totally. I can remember years ago when I'd taken classes at Syracuse University, I was told then that where we are right now with virtual education is exactly, this is where that we were heading towards virtual learning. Exactly, virtual education online. And at that time, I took classes virtually. And then eventually, they introduced taking a whole curriculum virtually online. And that was years ago. And so now, coming up to speed, this is where we are.
I mean, it's been happening.
It's been progressively happening.
But it's been happening at the collegiate level for
a while. Exactly.
And so the shift even last year was way too sudden, but the shift to saying, okay, it's going home, you're doing this virtually. And it was tough for even some of the collegiate kids, but it's probably
that's my point.
Bit less of a struggle for them versus taking it down to these lower levels, where the struggle is even more so. And we know even at the college level, there are kids who were going to college who haven't been able to cope with doing it this way. So it's a major shift. I think in terms of the question of whether this goes on long term, one of the key questions is, does it save them money? Honestly, I think when you look at this from a superintendent's perspective, they're going to look at the macro aspect of, can I make it work, and will it save our department money? Because if it saves the department money,
it is, and it will.
They will definitely be looking at considering it. So they've got to find a way to produce all the resources and support all the things that they were able to do, and so they've been, if you will, for better or for worse, forced into seeing if this is something they can make work. They may have thought about it in the past, but now they've been forced into seeing if it can work. And I think when the school year is over, they'll have a much better sense of what the answer to that question is. Right.
Because, right now it is trial and error. We are all learning how to do this.
Right. And they probably would have never done this, or at least not in this fashion or this time frame, if they hadn't been forced into it. But since you're forced into it, now you have the problem or opportunity, depending on what you want to look at it as, to try and force this to happen. So I think that school districts will evaluate this, and they're going to have to say, okay, now think about it. Here in Rochester, for those of you who are here in Rochester, we have been dealing with a major financial issue in the school district. Major issue.
Major
over the past year and into this year. We have been we're way over budget. We've had to cut funding. We've had to lay off teachers anyway.
Yes.
So realistically speaking, if they find a model that they decide will meet the needs of the students, and be more cost effective, there's no way they're not going to go that direction.
Right.
So it really just comes to see how all of this turns out, and whether it will really effectively work, or if they can make it at least satisfactorily work or not. Now, sooner or later, they're going to be tested, right? They're going to be tested on, are these kids graduating? Are these kids successful? How are their scores? All this stuff is going to pop out, and they're going to have to see if they can make, that's why I said it has to both work and it has to be cost efficient. It has to do both.
Yes.
But honestly, the way things work these days, it's cost efficient is probably the higher priority than working. I mean, I'm just being real.
Yes.
They'll have to look at both, but I'm betting, I would be a betting person. I'm not a betting person, but I would lean that towards that they were going to look at cost as a priority.
Yes.
In terms of how effective it's going to be to their students.
Right. And I have a concern as to how will this virtual education affect middle school, high school, and elementary children later on, when it's time to graduate, when it's time to look for that job later on, when it's time to go to college. Will they be properly prepared? I read something where they said that they will possibly city school kids may lag even further behind than they are already.
I wouldn't doubt it, especially because of this year. This is such an interruption to the process of learning.
And they're frustrated. Yeah. Just like educators are learning to educate this way. Right. They're trying to learn how to learn
this way. And it may not,
and they're missing school because they're missing that social interaction that kids need.
They want to do collegiate stuff. They want to do sports and things like that. After school stuff has all been disrupted. So, granted, they have had a disrupted time in terms of learning. Think of the kids last year at the end of their school year who didn't, college students and athletes that didn't get to finish out their college careers. Yes. And not only just finishing it, but the impact of what it meant to them getting scholarship or going past scholarships, getting to professional leagues.
Exactly.
So everything's huge disruption in this time frame. They would have never done this on purpose, but since they're in it, now I believe they're really going to try and work it and see how they could make it theoretically work in the future. So, I mean, lots of things going on.
This is where we are.
Yeah.
This is where we are.
Big changes that are happening to us this year all over. Now, there's a lot of stuff we haven't even talked about today, and we're past an hour, and I don't want y'all to get bored and us to get tired. And y'all ain't calling, but we didn't talk about the virus vaccine. We didn't even talk about Breyonna Taylor and that situation, which was major this
week. Yes,
so we'll definitely pick up on a lot of things next week.
Yes,
and of course, whatever else happens next week, we'll have to jump into as well.
Yes,
we want to encourage and invite you to invite someone to connect up with the program. If you think this is valuable and the things we're talking about are important, then I want to invite you to invite somebody else, help us to spread the word.
Yes.
We're going to get you word about people that are coming up on the program because we're really excited about some of the people we're talking to and hearing from about being engaged in the conversation. So we'll let you know about that as soon in advance as we can, but be watching for that in the next coming weeks. So Dr. Georgiana Land, if you're out there, I want to say hello to you again because it's my mother's birthday and you got my mother's name.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if she's on.
Yeah, I don't know if she's on or not, but if she sees it later, then we'll wave.
She'll catch it later. Yes.
Right. Tell her we should have had her on tonight. Yes. She would have loved this conversation.
Yes, and she would have had a lot to say.
Oh, we would have sat back. I know
someone else too that is teaching collegiately online, doing virtual education in California. Yep. And maybe I'll talk to her as well.
Yeah, we would have been much quieter if someone like that would have been on.
Yes.
And in the future, we got a lot to talk about. Hopefully this is helpful and you find it helpful and insightful, and we'll share it with somebody else that you'll join us and they'll join us next week for conversations next Saturday at 8 p.m. We will be coming back to you. Of course, tomorrow morning, we'll have our morning word and worship service at 11:30 a.m.
Yes.
Looking forward to a great time. If you're in Rochester, our services are open to the public now, and you can join us at 1405 Lowell Avenue. Meet us there for service tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. If not, connect up on our Facebook page, Destiny Preparation Church. And by the way, two things. We are going to be starting a YouTube channel for conversations so that you'll be able to go right to that channel if you want to connect up with any of the previous weeks and get all that. So we're working on that. Also, I want to say to Heather Austin, I'm calling you. I saw you on earlier. If you're still on, you notice this mug that I'm seeing here in front of me. I think it's time for a new mug, right? I think we need a DPC mug. This
Rochester paper.
This is from Kodak. This is Kodak
205.
Paper.
Come on, take care of your pastor.
Yeah, we've had this. I'm sporting this mug. You see the tea now. We're getting the tea season. I've been sporting this mug for a long time, but I think it's time. Heather, it's time. We've talked about it in the past. I believe it's time. We need a DPC mug.
Yes.
Right? It's official. Okay?
Yes, we need a church mug.
We'll be talking about that.
Yes,
we need a church
for the
mug
pastor.
For that. And anybody else who wants one, y'all can thumbs up and agree and talk to Heather. Everybody talk to Heather. Tell her, why haven't you gotten us a mug yet? All the church people to see Heather about that. All right. So everybody is connected.
It'll be getting cold soon. We need the hot drinks.
Yeah, after like tomorrow. It's going to be getting cold. It'll be nice tomorrow. After that, it's
downhill.
Okay. End of the summer. So thanks again, everybody. Look forward to connecting up with you tomorrow and in the future. Hope you've enjoyed the program. And, we've got more coming for you. So, make sure and stay tuned. Stay on the feeds, get the notifications. We'll be connecting up with you about what else is coming up. And it's going to be good conversations, at least through November, what is it, 3rd or whatever.
It's going to get better even after November 3rd.
So
we'll have more to talk about.
So stick with us.
Yes.
Stick with us. We'll try and give you information and conversations you need to help make whatever choices you make for the elections. And we're going to talk about that.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
The outcome.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
You have a good night. Leave your music from Matthew Brown and good therapy. Bless the Lord. Everybody have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody. Nice talking to you.
Bye.